Hey, how's everybody doing? Uh, Sorry if you went to the accidentally launched it a little bit before I was ready, and had to create a new one and cancel it. So apologize for that. If you're like, what happened, man? I just went here and nobody was there. Felt very uncomfortable. Um, but welcome back to another weekend AMA. I am your host. I don't know if I should say that. I will probably forever and always be your host, Dylan Israel. That's sort of the name of the channel, isn't it? At the end of the day, um, I have been a little bit busy as of late, um, and it's been a fun and exciting week. You can see my cat Tito is exhausted. He is in the trenches, sleeping right now. He is not quite ready to come back to the world of the living. He needs some time to recover. My puppy, he hasn't adjusted to us having a puppy quite yet. But anyhow, for those of you who are new, I like to always start off with a topic, something for us to discuss. And today's topic is going to be about a couple things. But the main thing is DevFest Florida, because that's where I went this weekend, which was pretty cool, pretty exciting. I went to, for those of you who don't know, DevFest Florida, it's a one-day conference. It was in Orlando at a Disneyland resort. I have a bunch of stickers and stuff like that. Let me see if I can go grab the stickers. They're in the living room. I'll just show you a few of the cool stickers. Um, but it's really been the first conference I've gone to since becoming a software engineer, and I think it's been kind of a cool thing. And maybe one of you guys can tell me what this thing went to. I also got a shirt. Let me see if I can grab the shirt just so I can show you guys real quick. The shirt is kind of cool, but I mean, obviously you go there to learn. You go there to be exposed to new things. Um, where's the shirt? I threw it in here. Hey, baby, you know where my conference shirt is? I wanted to show the people on the channel, but I don't know where it is. Oh, are you sleeping on it? Yes, you are. And my bag. Okay, got it. My cat was sleeping on it naturally. Um, but yeah, so I went to a conference. It was $150. I was hoping my previous workplace would pay for it. They declined, unfortunately. Um, and I paid for it out of pocket. No big deal. But so they talked about, they had sort of three sort of tracks. One was mobile, one was web, and then one was sort of something else entirely. And so it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself. It's always good to get some swag while you're there. So um, you get a little shirt, nothing crazy, but add it to your collection. I mean, who doesn't go to conferences and want to get a shirt or something? Also got a little canvas bag. And then, can someone in the chat tell me what this is supposed to do? Can you see that? Might be a little too bright, but it's got a little adhesive thing. I don't know what it's supposed to do. I have absolutely no idea. The only thing I can maybe think is maybe it's supposed to cover up your webcam on your laptop. I don't know. Then a bunch of stickers, all that sort of jazz. But yeah, so it was fun. A lot of the talks that at least that I went to were very short. They were about 40 minutes apiece. And it was kind of strange because um, in a 30 to 40 minute talk, you can't really deep dive too much. And it kind of gave me this strange confidence, like, oh, I could actually, if I only have to talk for 30, 40 minutes on something, I could go up there and talk. Like, that'd be kind of cool. And like one of my coworkers who has given talks at conferences, one of my old coworkers, I should say, since I started a new job on Monday. Let's say colleagues. One of my colleagues. That sounds professional, right? one of my colleagues said, "Hey man, you should go and give some talks. I've done it and I think you do a great job." And I was like, "Nah, I don't know." And you sort of start doubting yourself. But I think I will at some point in time. I'm going to do it. But one of my goals this year is to talk at meetups, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll eventually go and talk at some sort of conference. Um, I switch jobs? Yes, I talked slightly about it. I'll talk in additional detail, but yes, I am. I start a new job on Monday. It was time for me to move on. So um, I have nothing but nice things to say on video. And no, I'm just like, yeah, it was just time. It's time for a new environment. It's time to move on. Switching jobs is always stressful. It's never, you know, it's never always the funnest thing, but it is part of the game right now. Part of what needed to happen this time. Am I still watching anime? Honestly, I the last anime I was watching um was, oh god, actually I just rewatched K. Uh K um which K for like King, on Netflix with April. April's been getting really into anime, so it's something I sort of introduced her to a little bit more, and so she's really enjoying it. And I also got done watching. It just ended recently. Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Super, all that sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, so not too much lately. So I went to the conference yesterday, which was an all day event. I'm having a little bit of a relaxing Sunday because I start a new job tomorrow, and I'll play some board games with some colleagues and friends of mine, and then I'll from there, I'm gonna take April and I out to a nice dinner. If you ever heard of Rodizio, that is like a Brazilian steakhouse where it's essentially all you can eat, and so they come with these like swords. I call them swords. They're skewers, but they look like swords to me. Where it's a bunch of meat, and then they just slice off the meat, and it's like maybe 20 different types. Um, so um, that is something that's gonna be a little bit fun. Did I get a big pay increase? At my new work? No, somewhere around the $5,000 to $7,000 range. I'm sort of capped. I was already at the six-figure level, and so um, you know, I already have gotten quite a few pay increases along the way. So um, I'm in the Tampa market. So once you hit above six figures in the Tampa market, you're sort of hitting that, for lack of a better word, corporate glass ceiling. And the reason I add corporate to that is because although you can only make a certain amount of money salary wise, there's other ways that you can improve your financial situation. Um, and you can go and start a side project like a YouTube channel, build courses. There's all a bunch of stuff, write a book. Um, so that will probably be where my biggest gains have come from. And honestly, when I started my career about 2.5 years ago professionally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to jump a job every 6 months, a year to get to where I was. And honestly, two job jumps, or one job jump, and I've been able to sort of go to the top of the mountain, if you will. Um, and the reason for that is just a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of continuous growth. So much so that I've had professionals ask me like, how did we hire you as a junior at one time? Like, you were never a junior, it's apparent. I was like, y'all were. I wanted to get out of my previous place, I'll tell you. How is Florida? um Joe was living in California like I was all my life as well. I don't know if you know that, Joe, but I'm 31. I spent 28 years in California. I've only ever lived in California or Florida, and I'm looking for an option change in Florida. So here's the thing: it depends why you're leaving California. So I left California for two main reasons: traffic and and cost of living. And so when I moved to Florida, the equivalent cost of living, and we can do a little calculator here. Let's just throw out a number of 100,000. Let's say Los Angeles to Tampa, and if you go to Miami, it's going to be different. But let's make this cost of living. Let's see. All right, so if I'm in the city of Los Angeles, which I was, and I wanted to go to Tampa, Florida, which I am, and let's just say my average income is 100,000. It's higher than that, but we'll just say that's that. Just for easy math. So, oh, I did it backwards. So if I'm in Tampa, that's what I meant to do. If I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I go to Los Angeles, and I make 100,000, for me to have the same lifestyle, if I wanted to go back to Los Angeles, I would need $180,000. And that would mean that it'd be equivalent. And so the cost of living, roughly, from a Tampa area to a Los Angeles area is 80% more, which is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And most, by the way, I know a lot of developers in the Los Angeles area because I'm from Los Angeles and I was learning software when I lived in Los Angeles. Most of them don't make 180,000. Some are around 130, 140. Most are lower. So, if your goal is to have less traffic and a better cost of living, meaning that you can buy a house easier, meaning that you can save and set up good roots and foundations, which is sort of my goal, is to set up my financial future. It's great. How's the weather? It rains more than it does in California. People say it's humid. It doesn't really bother me all that much. Really, the only bad thing I would say that I have sort of disliked is it's been sort of hard to find good food places. They're out there, but you got to search. All right. Yeah, my Udemy courses are designed for beginners and projects, so I think you'll like them quite a bit. How long was I with my previous work? About a year and a half. 1 year, 6 months, 18 months. But Joe, I would recommend, and this is true for everybody for the most part, I would recommend that if you don't make at least 200,000 plus dollars a year to leave. That's that's the truth of the matter is you're gonna have a very hard time buying a house without family help. You're gonna have a very hard time saving for your future. You'll gain just just off of you not paying state tax. You'll get a 7.5% increase if you make six figures because there's no state tax. So yeah, it's quite a bit of difference. Just everything's cheaper, man. I love it. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Um, but then again, it's what you value, right? If your family's all in California like mine is, maybe you want to be closer. I will say that that's a little bit rough, right? My parents are they're not getting any younger. Um, most of my cousins and everything are in California, but at this point, a good portion of them have moved apart. So I have put some distance between myself and my family. It's a good thing and a bad thing, but it all sort of depends. When I was learning, did I do 4 hours, 365 days a week? Yes. And on the weekends, I did more, closer to like 12. You can come hang out, buddy? Come on. Come on. Um, but that's one of the great things about being a software engineer is like before I accepted my current role, I got a job offer in Portland, I got a job offer in Seattle, and I got a job offer in Washington D.C. All of which were great companies, but due to the fact that I have a home and due to the fact that, in my opinion, they weren't. So here's the thing: I typically get paid a large. Like if you were to look up my job title, I'm getting paid like a 40% premium on top of what they say the median income would be for that job title. So I don't put too much faith in those things. But a lot of the roles they don't understand where you're coming from. They're like, look, we'll give you this, that's the market rate, or we'll give you 10K above it, and it's not worth it for me to leave a role in the city of from here if I gonna have an increased cost of living. And that's one of the unfortunate things is you don't typically get a better cost of living. Like you get an increased salary to a degree, but I wouldn't go and get 180K in Los Angeles. They wouldn't pay me that. Um, so it's just one of those things where you have to figure out if you really want to live in that city, you really want to live in that state. Um, C# .NET developer in the U.S. you'd get six figures pretty easily. Did I have days when I was learning to code where I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything? Of course you do. And did I take a break for a day or two? I never just really took a break. Um, I will say that more than anything else, I probably just transitioned. So like if I was stuck on a project, I'd go to algorithms. Stuck in an algorithm, I go to projects. If I was stuck on both, I'd go do a video. Like meaning I'd watch a video. If I was stuck on that, maybe I'll do like a Codecademy tutorial. If I was stuck on that, I'd go to a meetup. Like I would just keep on learning. I'd read a book. I would just keep making sure that I'm always progressing in one way or another. Oh, so one cool thing that kind of happened is I went to the so the channel is a fairly small channel, but it's getting there. Right, we're at 50,000 plus subscribers. I think we're at like 55. I don't really keep track anymore. Um, but one cool thing, it's always, and I kind of warned so I went with a friend of mine and colleague, and I was like, hey man, I don't really get recognized many places ever, but I get recognized at meetups on occasion, and I'm expecting that I'll get recognized because of that. I'm expecting that I'll get recognized at the conference. So I just want to let you know because it's going to be a little bit awkward, right? And it somewhat is, but I did meet three subscribers while I was there, which is cool. I had sort of conversations. Obviously they're all doing the right things. I have no doubt the three of them are going to be successful because one was volunteering for the event, two others were attending, and like it's like you guys are putting in the time and the effort, and you want to get better, and that's really all it takes. Um, but it's just sort of funny because I was sitting there, um, and it's sometimes people, oh hey Dylan, I'm a subscriber, and then other times it's like, hey, you're that YouTube guy. I was like, yeah man, that's me. I guess that's me. Um, But yeah, so like we were sitting, I was sitting there, and so like once that happened, my colleague just sort of got up and walked away, right? He's like, uh, I don't want to deal with this. And so he walks away, and then I have a conversation. It's cool. I always enjoy talking to people. Um, but then he's like, yeah, and then I'm taking pictures, whatnot, right before this, and that's the awkward part for the most part because I don't mind taking the pictures, but then you have to think like all these other people are like, who the fuck is this guy? And why are they taking a picture with him? And like I'm just some unassuming dude, right? I'm just in like my play. I have like a PlayStation shirt on. I'm not dressed nice. I don't look like I'm doing anything special. But that's all. It's always an interesting thing. I make like my awkward joke that I make. I like I was like one of the guys apologized. Sorry, man. I know this is kind of awkward, but it's a big deal or something like that. I was like, nah, man. It's just never a cute girl. That's all. He's like, I think he said something like, I would have brought my wife, but she's a fan, but she's not here today. I was like, it's all right, man. It's good stuff. Keep up the good work. Um, But it did make me feel good about releasing the home video I released. He's like, "Yeah, man, I saw your house video. It looks great. I appreciate you putting it out there. A little bit of motivation." So poor Tito. He's been so upset that we've got a puppy, and he's like, "I have a scratch from here to here from where he essentially almost sliced my nipple off because he got scared of the puppy and thought the dog was in here. He wasn't even in here. He just sort of is on edge lately." So like you find the more you progress, the more you feel that that you can't do it and you're gonna collapse on the job. Any advice? Yeah. Try to not be so hard on yourself. The truth of the matter is that development isn't that hard. Um, and the only thing that you have to do is put in a little bit of effort and you'll be a fantastic developer. Um, if you can just put a little bit of effort every day into getting better, even after you get the job, and just make sure that the year one developer is not the same as the year two developer, and the year two developer is not the same as the year three developer, then you will be a fantastic developer. Now, the hardest part to becoming a developer is that first job, is putting that time, effort, and energy in there to grow and mature and learn. And so it's okay to feel overwhelmed. You're doing something new. No one comes out the womb and is like, yo, for loops, baby. I got this. No one's like that. It's okay. You're essentially learning a brand new skill set, and it's going to be different. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. And you have to understand that you're not going to be a legend out the gate. You're not going to be a coding god out the gate. Um, but I do think that you'll get there as long as you just stay on the path. That's it. Stay on the path. Understand it's okay to feel this way. The thing that like the crazy this is what's crazy about software is I remember being angry when I couldn't figure something out. Just like angry and frustrated, screaming and yelling. I'm like at home, I'm making noise. My cats are all running around because they don't know what's going on. But the truth of the matter is you have to take that. Like you have to take that negativity, that moment of like, why do I feel so dumb? Like I know all I have to do is reverse the string. I know what it means to reverse a word. Why can't I connect the dots? And that takes practice. That takes reformatting your brain. I've said this time and time again. It's like you have to learn how to think like a developer. You have to learn how to break things up into components, how to break things into their smallest parts and figure out how you're going to build it out piece by piece. That's what you have to do. You essentially what your job is at the end of the day is putting a puzzle together. You are given the image, and then you have to not only put it together, but you have to define what the puzzle pieces are. So, and that goes for any job. It's not just, it's just not front end, it's just not back end. This is what we want. Now reverse engineer it. So, it's working for freelancing and working for small local companies as good as working in a company for resume experience. So typically freelancing is not necessarily considered the same by a lot of organizations. That's organization specific. Um, that's just the reality of it. It depends. Different people are going to put different value on it. And I say that because you'll see resumes that will specifically say 2 to 4 years of enterprise developer experience working on a team. And that's to sort of say, like, hey, we don't value your freelancing experience. um, do software developers earn more than network administrators? Yes. Normally, yes. Hey, buddy. Oh, big boy. Oh, who needs a baby? I got a baby right here. Uh, thoughts on learning a CMS? I I typically advise against learning CMSs, um, because I'd rather have you. I'd rather have you uh, learn to program than learn a framework inside and out. It's sort of like a good example is this: is I've built like 2 maybe 3 small projects in Vue. I haven't touched it in 6 plus months, and it's very entry level stuff. You know, quote generator, weather app, just something to learn about routing and just see how things are done in Vue. Um, I got hired to do as for a Vue.js role, and the reason that they I was able to get that role is because I understand the fundamentals of single page applications. I understand how they're architected. I understand MVC. I understand what they provide and what they do, and I have a strong understanding of JavaScript, which is what it's all based off of. And so I can transition very easily to these things. Um, and so if you can have a better understanding of just programming rather than a CMS, I would highly encourage you to do so. What are some key JavaScript concepts that most interviewees fail to explain? Um, so like some basic ones would be like, what is a falsy value? Something that I would ask. Um, explain a promise, which is really just asking about asynchronous code. Um, I would probably ask some ES6 stuff like what do error functions give you? Define the difference between varlet and const. Um, what it means to um, pass by reference and um, I forget the other one. You know what I'm talking about. You know how arrays and objects we pass by reference by in primitive types we I believe pass by value. It would be as technical. Those would be some basic things that you would ask. Would you say that you should do something with programming when you're interested in IT, or is it safe for the future to work in another priority? For example, Windows and Linux administrator. Guys, honestly, you should stay away from like, for the most part, you should stay away from like networking jobs. I'm not to say that they're bad and they're going anywhere overnight, but they're definitely not growing in scope. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, my bad, guys. Sometimes when you gotta go, you gotta go. Uh, Message retracted. All right. But yeah. So, what are the requirements needed to become a Udemy instructor? You apply. You submit a video example. They test the audio. They test the video. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Come here, buddy. Come here. No. Okay. He'll come in like a minute. Um, but yeah, I mean that's the gist of it. So, um, but yeah, so what were we talking about? Oh yeah, network administrators sort of stuff. Yeah, I'd stay away. Would I work with my CMS in my first job where I try and get a better opportunity? I would. Um, I would, but I would be studying other things to get out of there within 6 months. That'd be my goal. Um, why do network jobs not grow in your opinion? A lot of organizations are going to, quote unquote serverless, and so they're hiring servers as a service, essentially. And also, a lot of the networking is a very broad thing, so there's certain aspects that are more valuable than others. Um, you know, having security and managing your network at an organization isn't the best paying gig, and is something there's getting fewer and fewer jobs in there. And at the end of the day, you can take those. What I would do is like, hey, you're interested in networking, you want to take those server skills. I would take that and I'd move into DevOps. That's what I would do, and that's sort of the untraditional path that a lot of people do take. And to do that, you'll then become much higher in demand, and the pay will go significantly up. Um, I've watched a lot of tutorials and fundamentals, and I struggle putting it all together. So this sort of goes based off of something earlier I said about how you have to be able to break out these things into, you have to be able to piecemeal them, I should say, into little pieces here and there. And so, what I would encourage you to do is say, okay, here's my overall application. I need a navigation. Cool. Let's build it. Let's hard code it first. We're going to hard code it. We're going to get the CSS right. We're going to get the JavaScript or the HTML right. Okay, cool. Got it. Turns out the options in this navigation need to come dynamically from an API based off the user settings. All right, no problem. Let's leave the client side, jump over to the server side, and define what our model is. What is the menu model going to come back in, and what are our routes going to look like? And you say, cool, build that API, build that route, build that service. Great. I have here what I need to. The front end's job is not only display something nicely, but it's really just to connect to things and give functionality. So now we're connecting to our service, and we say, awesome. Now I'm connected to the service I just wrote. that's giving me a menu. Now, I didn't build the full menu API. It didn't take in any additional things. All it's doing is returning a menu. You say, okay, now I need to have it take in a user um, token. I have to have it taken a token. However, you're going to do validation. You might have to go look up how do I do validation. You start breaking down piece by piece. You say, cool. Now that I have this API that's just returning it, I don't want it always to return, and I need it to return things sometimes and return other things other times. Now let's define those parameters and how we're going to do that. And so you just start breaking it out piece by piece and connect it, put it together. And there's going to be better ways of doing things and worse ways and everything in between. Um, would you say it's important to learn more backend languages? I think it depends. I think if you just understand what the server side is doing, actually understand and you understand REST, um, that you could dive into other things. Um, so, but yeah, so I would recommend that you at least code on the server. So here's the thing: to be a great specialist, you have to be a good generalist, and so you have to understand what's going on the server side to be able to help on the front end. So would I recommend on the second part you to learn Node or PHP? I probably would. Yeah. I mean, I have a good friend who loves PHP, but he gave it up because the jobs in it are typically for legacy applications, and they typically, on average, pay less than Node would. That house looking good. I'm glad you like it, man. I was a little hesitant of putting it out there, sharing the house, sharing the home a little bit, but I got told at the conference as a little bit of a motivator, and so I'm glad I did. Um, you know, everyone's been, or at least some people have been on the journey with me from living in a place smaller than my office with a microwave to you know um, to many other unfortunate circumstances that was life. Um, so maybe we can show people that they can turn their life around a little bit. Is it healthy to code every day? I think so. But I'm a degenerate. I'm a degenerate developer that codes every day. Not so much lately. I've been too busy. I've been too busy. Now I just code 5 days a week, maybe 6. Um, I do work every day though. Um, your girl is complaining. Your gal. So what I would say is, that if you have a family member or a significant other that doesn't fully understand why you do what you do while you're coding, try to make them understand. Chances are, SciMac technologies that you are just getting going, um, and that you haven't really got the payoff yet. That you haven't had the reward of your labor quite yet. Um, you know, and so learning to code doesn't pay off until it does, and then it pays off quite nicely. So try to make her understand that you're going to transform your life, and that you're going to, that when this pays off, April, by the way, it's not just you. Um, April tells me, I told April about 4 years ago, said, baby, um, I'm unhappy with school. I'm going to drop out. And she was a little worried. She was a little concerned, no doubt. She believed in me, but Uh, I'm going to work every day for 5 years, every single day for 5 years, and I'm going to. I didn't say this, but this is sort of a mental picture. I'm going to transform my life. I'm going to. I'm going to. I'm going to accomplish. I'm going to accomplish some things because I know what it can do for me. Um, uh, I am. I'm sorry. I'm trolling my buddy on Discord right now. Um, but yeah. So you have to paint the picture. I understand. Even now, I've even with everything that we have been able to accomplish overcome, she still doesn't like me working so much, but she understands that we have goals, we have dreams, and to meet those, it takes some. Sometimes you gotta. Uh, sometimes it takes a little bit of separation, a little bit of distance. Um, why should you go to conferences? A lot of great networking. Uh, um, so that's you have to paint the picture. You have to make them understand because they're not going to. Melvita Atkinson with a $5 donation. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that when you guys support me in that way. For those of you who don't know, um, uh, the every dollar I earn from YouTube ad revenue and the money that you guys send my way, I throw at the house. It helps me pay the house off early, and I do appreciate it. Um, but yeah, going to conferences is great for networking. Oftentimes, you'll find companies that are actively looking to hire, and like really actively, meaning like they paid money to be here to try and find people who are interested in jobs. So you have that. You also can meet people, and you get to learn quite a bit. Be introduced to new technologies, and it's just a fun thing, man. If you enjoy software, at the end of the day, you'll enjoy software conferences. Um, Master of the Mash, Dylan. The house put things in perspective, but as someone who can never drive. I have to live in the city where I see a lot of houses from 200, 300K that are just barely over 1,000 square feet. Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle. Coding paid off for me. Got an awesome job at an awesome company. No work, no victory without sacrifice. Yeah, and that's the thing is like you have to sacrifice a little bit of your time, a little bit of your energy. Not maybe a little bit, but once you get going, once you are there, it's just about maintaining and a little bit of supplemental. What do you think is the best computer brand for code? I think you're asking a question that doesn't really matter. For the most part, the only reason I would say, oh, you know what, get a Mac is if you're doing iOS development. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Get whatever you're already familiar with. If you're doing web dev, then just go from there. I personally use Windows. I like Windows. There's a lot of tools for Windows. Um, I know a lot of people like Mac, but I just don't like. I don't like the brand, and I think personally that they are expensive for what you get. So, but that's just sort of my 2 cents about it. Ah, Dante, how's it going, man? Dante was one of the guys I met at the conference. In the grind, trying grinding it out to get it going, doing the right things. I think that's the most exciting part is when meeting you guys is at like conferences or meetups is that you guys are doing it, right? Like there's a lot of people that go and say they're doing it, but when I actually run into people at conferences or like meetups, it's like you're about that life. You know what I mean? And that's that's some cool stuff. Um, Do I feel forced by your boss to do a lot of overtime? I've had this situation in the past where I've been asked by my boss to work a set amount of overtime, but for the most part, I don't work too much overtime. I am here to deliver 40 hours of quality work on average a week. If you are expecting me to work 60 hours a week or 50 hours a week, we're going to need to renegotiate my salary. Um, and the reason, one thing that I ask, and people say, "Why do you ask that? This doesn't scare away employers." Is I ask about overtime. It's one of the questions I ask an employee. Is I want to know, like I'll say something like, I have a lot of side projects. I'm consistently learning. So these things are important to me. I want to spend time with my family. Um, but I typically I'm here for game day. It's usually how I paint it. I'm here for when you need me, but if when you need me is every week, I will not be here for long. And so, um, some companies will say they'll be worried about those side projects. Well, how do you do that? And the side projects, how can you? And what they're basically saying is, how can we work you 60, 80 hours a week and you still do this? And the answer is you can't. And other companies like, yeah, we just expect 40 hours out of you. Every now and again, we might have you to have to work, 10-hour days for a week, but that should be the exception, not the norm. And so, companies who are worried about my work ethic, which by the way, I have no work ethic problem. I go home, I work probably 20 to 40 hours a week on top of my work on side projects. Um, but I'm not working 20 to 40 hours on top of my job for you. That won't happen. And so I paint that picture very clearly during the interview process most of the time, when I'm concerned about it, um, because it is important. My time is important to me. I am just another employee to most companies, and they will need me as long as they need me. And when they don't, they will let me go. And that means I need to plan my money correctly. That means I need to plan my life correctly. That means that 2 years, 3 years, whenever the next job ends, 5 years, that I need to be able to put myself back together and I'm not so burnt out and callous and pessimistic that I've been abused. That's what that means. And so if you're being asked to do a lot of overtime by your organization and you're unhappy, leave. There's no reason for you. And one of the speakers said this in our talk. It wasn't even about this, it's just an offhanded comment where if you're unhappy with where you work at as a developer, why? Why would you ever stay and be unhappy? You can go and get a job today, and go and get a new job. Honestly, it is not worth it to stay at an employer where you're unhappy. Now, you may want to work with that employer to try and make it better, and I encourage you to do so. I've tried to do that in the past, and um, at least then when you leave, you'll feel good about yourself. You'll say, you know what, man, I gave it my all. I said, these are the issues. Let's work towards solving them. I encourage you to do that. Try and help the organization. Be a good employee, but you are under no obligation to be miserable. You are under no obligation to work overtime for significant portions of your time. You and you definitely don't want to be unhappy. So, if you have a boss who's pushing that on you, go find a boss that's not going to. How many months did it take you to learn enough web dev for a job in the very beginning? I would say honestly 9 months to a year. How will I know I'm ready for a job? When you can build a project from start to finish, I would say you're ready. That's usually a good go-to. Um, when you know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, a testing framework would be nice, like Jasmine, and a major client-side framework like Angular, React, or Vue. I think you're on the right path. So, and then Git. If you got that together, you're I don't want to say master, but you're fluent in all these. You can use all these tools. You're ready for the front end web dev. Now you're not going to come out the gate and make 100K, but you might get a job, make 40K, and then a year from now, as you worked on your skills, go to 60K. And as you go and get promoted to mid at 2 years, 80K. And at 3 years, you're senior or you're just getting a better job, 100K. So don't worry about the money getting started. Worry about getting that experience. But that's when I think you're ready. My very first internship paid me $12 an hour. That was 3.5 years ago. I now make, let's see, 4.5 to times that, and that's not counting bonuses. That's not counting. That's not counting benefits. That's just pure hourly rate. Um, so like, don't worry about the money in the beginning. It will come. And if it doesn't, just go seek it out, and then it will definitely come. Just worry about getting that experience and getting better. The hardest thing for me is just seeing how bad some of my colleagues still are. That's not to say I'm the greatest, I'm the best developer there ever was. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I can say that without a doubt I've put time and energy to make sure that I'm a better developer than I was 2-3 years ago. And then I talked to some people who I started the game with, and you're at the same level, and it's unfortunate. How's the course coming along? I have finished the syllabus. I have finished the project list. I have built out the video course, but I haven't recorded anything yet. The quality assurance course, as well as transitioning to a new job and the conference and the puppy, has thrown off my schedule a little bit. So the course is going to be delayed for a little bit, but we're setting a lot of good groundwork, and I'm pretty excited about it. So it will definitely get done. Probably just not till I won't really start working on it until I'm done with the quality assurance boot camp. ETA, have about 10 weeks left in the course. I would say it's probably going to take 2 to 3 months, so probably mid this year. But it's pretty good. You guys want to see the project list? So some of these are gonna come and go. So don't hold me to it. But this is some general notes. I don't know if you can read all that, but so what we have on here is, so my goal is to have 30 projects for you in this course, and so I've written down some generic projects that we're going to do. So tribute page, survey form, video homepage, table data and pagination, a brand homepage, a git/readme, algorithm section, calendar project, weather project, subdomain generator, creating a custom NPM package using the Words API, creating a custom spinner/loading icons, additional algorithm tests, a specific project dedicated to, am I here? I think this is 15. Yeah, 15. I specific refactoring of old projects, which is going to be an interesting one. Creating mockups for some projects, refactoring projects in a mobile-first way, using the Meetup API, an animated character, pure CSS GIF generator, a test-driven development project, cryptocurrency project with the Coinbase API, a GitHub project with the GitHub API, address book project, a functional programming project, Twitch API, a to-do project. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but a charts-based project, and then a full stack mean, MERN, or whatever the Vue version would be, MEVN. Agile certification, interview take-home problem, a share course project, which essentially is going to show you how to create a bunch of sharing icons and connecting with various APIs, like share this on Facebook, share this on that sort of thing. Camper leaderboard, personal portfolio, another random quote, Wikipedia, markdown previewer. So those are certain projects on here, very high level, obviously, but these, expect to get all of these in the course. By the end of it, you should have 30 plus projects to work on. And if you want to see, I give you a little high level of what we're covering on Udemy, just so that you guys can get excited about it. I'm excited by it. I don't even think I'm dropping it. Uh, so currently I have 507 videos planned in my course. You have a max of 550 sections. There are about 30 quizzes in my course to help you review as well on top of the projects. And so we have our introduction section. We have a introduction to HTML and CSS, and HTML CSS intermediate, HTML CSS intermediate 2, HTML CSS intermediate 3. Let me go ahead and change that to 3. We have, and by the way, in each one of these, we're covering different things. So not only are we going into more detail about HTML and CSS, but we're also covering accessibility concerns. We're talking about Bootstrap in one of here. We're then diving into responsive design, CSS grid, HTML intermediate CSS3, which we also go into animations, Bulma, and Flexbox here as well. Then we have a design skills section that breaks down creating designs. We now have a Git, a Markdown, VS Code, and command line section. We now have an introduction to JavaScript. We have a ES6 functions, math, date, and regular expressions going deeper into JavaScript. We have asynchronous JavaScript section, as well as diving into REST and SOAP standards, as well as an introduction to Postman. We have a DOM and Vanilla JS section, which is going to be helpful, which also we go into Font Awesome, just to get you familiar with pretty much every company you're going to work at is going to use Font Awesome for icons. It's not a big deal, but something something to keep in mind. We then have a Node, NPM, and Yarn section. We then have a TypeScript section, a Sass section, unit testing with the introduction to Jasmine and Karma. We have a debugging and tips and tricks section, which is probably my favorite section because I think this will help you the most, with an introduction to not only the browser dev tools, but Lighthouse as well. We have the common HTML5 web APIs, as well as an introduction to mobile first and creating mockups. So things like drag and drop, the geolocation, full screen API, camera API, and then, as I mentioned, mobile first, a quick section on jQuery, another section on a Sass preprocessor, less. We then have another great section on clean code, object-oriented programming, solid principles, and test-driven development, Angular, and atomic design. So we'll be diving into that. GraphQL as well. And that's the GitHub API project. So GitHub API is compatible with GraphQL. We have a section on Webpack and Mocha. We have a functional programming section. Then we have a React and Babel section. We have a Redux and Materialize. We then have a Vue.js, and Jest section. Then we have a Node, Express, Passport, and MongoDB section to build out that full stack app with an introduction to Swagger as well. We then have a section on relational databases because, again, this goes to the whole thing about to be a great specialist, you have to be a decent generalist or a good generalist. And so we're doing relational databases with an introduction to SQL. We have a whole section dedicated to Agile. I have a section that I call on the job skills, which will be about pull request, pair programming, working on TV, employee evaluations, etc., etc. Then we have a career section. The career section is very long, and this is designed to help you get a job, help you do well, help you negotiate. And then we have an interview prep section with how to prepare, and with various tips and what types of questions you would get for a JavaScript interview. And then we have bonuses, which is resources and more. So 507 videos. I briefly went over that of pretty much everything that you would ever need to know. You'll be killing the game by the end of this course. And we have 30 projects to help make it stick, 30 quizzes in here, and there's 507 total items. And I imagine that will actually ramp up to about 550 very quickly. I gave myself, because, and that's the max on Udemy. So we're gonna be killing the game with this course. Unfortunately, it's taken me quite a bit of time to get this syllabus. It took me 2 or 3 weekends to first just probably maybe even longer, about 3, 4 weekends to say, okay, what type of course do I want to build? I want to build the best front end engineer course there is. Great. What does that mean? This is whiteboarded it out for 2, 3 weekends, refined it, refined it, refined it. Bam, here we are. Um, so that's the course in a nutshell. It'll be fun though. It'll be fun to make, and it'll be something I'm very proud of, and that I think will provide a lot of value for you guys. But all right. Um, how much should a self-taught programmer expect to make on average without a degree? Um, the average developer makes what they think they're worth, what the market will pay. I could tell you that I'm self-taught, and I make more than some of my colleagues with master's degrees. Um, it depends on your skill. It depends on your resume. It depends on you. So um, it's it's up to you. Some companies won't hire me. That's okay. I only need one job. I don't need every company to want to hire me. And honestly, if you judge me by the quality of my education versus the quality of my knowledge and skills, and that's that's your choice. I can't affect that. What I can do is make sure that I get hired at a company that values me. So, with that being said, guys, I appreciate you all very much. Thank you again for the $5 donation earlier. I do appreciate that. Anything that helps me and the fam out is always always appreciated. So with that being said, guys, I wish you the best of luck in your studies. Don't forget to comment, smash that like button, all that important stuff. And it was a pleasure meeting some of you at the conference. I'll let you know next time I'm going as well, and we'll catch up. It'll be some fun stuff. But I'll see you guys next time. Have a great weekend. Bye.